Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast. Corey Palm, Tanner Lipset, and head coach Tony Ersland coming to you on. Well, for a lot of folks, this is like Christmas morning. It is National Signing Day, and
best day of the year.
There you go. Months and months, sometimes years of hard work pay off today, and let's get right to it. Small class this year, Coach, but hopefully an impactful one.
Yeah, no, it's great. With clock extension, right? Still with COVID and everybody getting another year, and we've documented that pretty well with Max and Evan coming back. Our needs were smaller for sure, but we're happy with who we got. We got a young man out of Evansville, Mater Dei, Brody Baumann, undefeated state champ last year. And backed it up with a tremendous summer here. Top 5 at Fargo at 170 pounds. Was actually undefeated last year, as I said, at 160. So he's got some length, he's got some athleticism, and he probably figures into 174, 184 for us in the future. We expect him to continue to fill out, but yeah, just another super sharp, bright kid, hardworking, talented kid that I think fits us really well and gives us what we need within our lineup.
Tony, we talked a lot, we talk a lot about recruiting, obviously in the office, every day. Yeah. And as we approached this class of 22, and as we kind of went through the routine of, we had visits, we had calls, we had home visits, we kept getting back to one consistent theme. Like, we got to get Brody home. We got to get Brody. Brody is the linchpin to this. Everything after that is details.
Yep.
And so to get Brody locked in and to get him to commit and to get the ink on the page, like, what does that mean for the future of the program?
Well, it serves a couple things, right? Like, you get a great kid who fits what you're about, right? Like, we really believe that. I mean, first and foremost, you need a kid who really fits in with the culture of your team and what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? And then the second thing is weight class needs, again, is a very big deal, right? And standing talent coming out of this state this year and the next few years. And so to get one of those guys really has us excited. So again, that 74, 84 range, it was big, especially with some of the talent sticking around. When we talk about everybody getting extra years, needs were smaller. So to fill the need and to have the kid who fits exactly what you want was really important to us.
You talked about this a little bit, and I kind of want to go expound on this a little bit. Brody is, in addition to being a great wrestler, which obviously is the name of the game, that's what, gets the money in our bank accounts at the end of the day. Like that's what we're we got to produce on the mat. But Brody checks a lot of boxes elsewhere.
Yep.
We had I thought our recruitment of Brody and our getting to know him and his family was a fantastic experience. And you got to be really excited about, again, a young man who fits our culture, excels in the classroom, and really can get it done on the mat, all in one package.
Yeah, and the other thing too, right? He's an in-state guy. Those goals, and it's tough to do to keep your best in-state kids always here because there's a lot of good kids coming out, but that's an important piece. So you keep a kid at home, comes out of a very strong program, right? Like, historically, you look at what Mater Dei has done. They've done a lot of winning, so that's great. Mauer Coughlin Wrestling Club, you know what I mean? Another club that has turned out a lot of really good kids, have a lot of respect for how they work with their young men and women down there, you know what I mean? Like how they do things within their club. So again, there's just a lot of things that we really value. A lot of people look at, maybe just the winning, and that's all it is. But you've got to find people who really fit your needs and your culture, because you want to keep adding to that culture. You get guys who don't believe in the same things, and things can go sideways really quick, no matter what the talent is. And so I feel really good that, with Brody, that we've got a guy who checks a lot of really strong boxes for us. And we're just excited to get him in the room next year.
Former teammate of McCartney Parkinson, who is obviously who has done well in his first year in the program. I know Brody's excited to be back with McCartney in the room. Another fun connection. You talked about a couple of Brody's excellent performances. Brody took second at the Central Regional Freestyle Championships, losing in the finals to his future teammate Stoney Buell in a barn burner 11-10. So in addition to going and winning the Greco bracket at that event as well. So Brody's got some fun connections there. And as we've kind of alluded to, I think he's going to be a great asset to the team and to the room. Yeah, there's no doubt. It really helps. As you mentioned, Stoney, like, you try to put your lineup together for the next few years. Stoney, if you guys look at body types, he's a lighter guy. He's probably more 57, 165. And again, we've mentioned Brody's probably 74, 84 as he fills out and grows. So it bodes well for where we're at, especially when you look at last year's lineup. Ben Venadia coming in, Ben's going to be here to help us out. Tom Pinola around for 3 years. So again, it just solidifies a strong lineup for us. And that's what we were trying to get done this year with smaller needs. I say you mentioned the smaller needs again, and that's kind of where I was going to go. There's been a lot of conversation about the COVID waivers and how it's going to affect recruiting for years. We have definitely seen it on our books and with our kids and with our room. We're in a bit of a weird place right now because when you look up and down the roster, we're young, but we're also experienced. And so, we're only going to have a couple guys. We're only going to lose a couple guys after this year. And so, like you said, the needs were smaller and we brought in Hayden Kopass. He's going to join us this semester. So that fills a need there. And then you got Brody's filling the need. And so how has the COVID waiver and the smaller needs, how has that affected your approach to all of this? I think it really forces you to plan further out, from where you're at. So it comes down to looking at those, not just the junior class, but the sophomore class and even the freshman class now. Because as you said, these years, they just drag out. It wasn't a 1 year, these guys all got the extension. Everybody, sophomores, freshmen got extensions. So it really forces you to look even further out about what your lineup's going to be. And that, of course, is tough, right? Like, who knows in 4 years what some of these guys, where they're going to be and want to do. But you've got to plan for it. And that's what we're trying to do, right? We were happy to be able to bring Devin and Max back, with good, strong money situations. But that, of course, chops into your aid and how you want to use your aid. So I'm really looking at, years down the road more than ever before. And we have a junior commit on the board already. Of course, rules prevent us from saying that is, so we'll respect that. But it's really where we've gone in recruiting, right? You're looking down the road even further before, and you're really hustling on those younger classes. Yeah, you talk about the 2023 commits, and I don't remember. Obviously, we've only been able to talk to juniors for a few years now. But I feel like things are moving faster than ever before. And more 2023 big boarders are committed at this point than I can ever remember or ever. We've even got some 2024s committed, which is weird since you can't talk to them or offer them scholarships. That's kind of strange to me. But that's a whole nother discussion where kids can commit before you're technically even allowed to talk to them or offer them aid. How that gets done, I'm not sure either. But that's a discussion for another day. Right. That's those decisions can be left to people who are wiser than us. But it's
wiser than us.
Fair point, Corey.
They're more powerful than us.
Fair. Yeah, it's just been interesting to me to see how accelerated everything's become. And I think the hardest part about that you brought up is you don't know what kids are going to be. And I think it's even more interesting to wrestling than it is some other sports, because it's like, basketball, obviously that's my deal, right? You recruit a kid in basketball and they grow, like that's a good thing. because you're recruiting the skill set, you're recruiting, and especially because that game's becoming more positionless, right? And so you get a kid that's 6'4" and you recruit him and you're like, awesome. And then all of a sudden he hits a growth spurt and he's 6'8" and you're like, oh, even better. Like, this is great. Like, this is a good thing. With wrestling, if you go recruit a kid to be a 125 pounder and he hits a growth spurt and he's a 149 pounder, like that blows everything up.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Like
especially with only 9.9 scholarships for, your 10 weights. And I'll tell you, for me, even it's a little scary for a guy like me, because I value, as most people probably, if you've listened to this, the relationship piece, and that takes time. Like, I'm not ready to hop on a phone, talk to you once, throw you an offer, and let's get this done. Because, I really feel like I want to get to know you, make sure this is a great fit. You're on the same page as us. And that's important to us. And we value that. And as you said, now, man, you've got kids coming off the board fast. Like, it's
really fast.
Even made a visit or hardly done anything. We're making decisions. And so for a guy like me to want to move that fast is not the way I would like to go about this process. So again, it'll be us adjusting and finding creative ways to get to know these kids more than ever before. Camps, clinics, RTC, things, right? There's other ways of getting this done to get the relationship piece done. And that's where we'll hustle and we'll work in the future. But no doubt, to me, boy, it's a different world where kids may, as a sophomore, say, hey, I'm going here. And you don't even know what it is. You think, a lot of kids think they know what it is, but you don't really know what it is. And so this will be interesting to see where it really goes in the future.
Another thing, let me jump in here. Another thing that seems to be changing, correct me if I'm wrong, in the sport is, it used to be kind of a largely unwritten rule that you came in, you redshirted because you needed that year to develop. You needed that year to fill out physically, to mature mentally, to refine your skill set. That ain't the case anymore either. We've got more true freshmen competing who are coming in ready to compete at this level. We've got more, high school kids competing in college opens. You've got, 8th graders going deep at these national high school events. Like, it's all spinning so forward so fast, it seems like.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it's like anything. The world's changing, recruiting's changing, development of these kids with access, everything is, I guess, to use your words, it's moving fast, and you got to be ready to move fast too. The thing for me is to find a way to have that relationship piece and feel good about who they are, because that's the thing as a coach. What you worry about is you end up with young people in your program who don't identify or feel the same about competing, training, academics, right? Like, those things are all very important to the experience that they have at your school, and you got to be on the same page. And that's truly what I've always valued and felt like you have success with. Those are the things that last, if you will. So finding ways to build that and still put these kids in a position to make decisions sooner than ever before is going to be part of it.
Yeah, Corey, it's crazy you mentioned the high school kids. And I mean, we, obviously can't mention them by name, but we had 2 high school kids win college opens at their weights this last weekend. Kids are senior in high school. They're signing their NLIs today.
Didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah.
Oh, that they two guys, one of which we knew and recruited and liked a whole lot. But it's crazy how fast it's moving, and like you mentioned the 8th graders going, and competing in the high school division at Super 32 and all that stuff. So it's interesting, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be a few more years. You talk about the COVID waivers, and I think we're probably going to get 2 to 3 more recruiting classes before things kind of like settle back out, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll never be the same again. I have no idea, but I do know that there has been an impact, and it'll be interesting to see how it all sorts out as time goes by.
There's no doubt. And then you tie in, right? You can't get away from the name, image, likeness piece. I mean, there's so many different ways to work around this now, or to try to work around. We'll see what comes of it, right? As you said, who knows if it'll ever be the same? Because, for us, the immediacy is, okay, how do we have athletic aid for guys like Max and Devin? NIL wasn't a thing yet. So you had to find that aid and plan for it. And you went through that process. Well, now NIL is a thing. And so you stack aid as well, right? You have academic aid, kids could qualify, need-based aid, use your athletic aid, tie NIL to this. Even though I can't deal in that for those people out there, understand a coach cannot arrange or secure, NIL stuff for these young men or women. But it's going to be interesting to see how this is impactful for these kids coming out too, because I'm sure it will be. It's going to be a factor. You already have kids asking questions like that, right? And that's kind of an interesting deal where that's already gone, where kids can ask that question. And the answer has to be, hey, we can't do anything for you, but you can explore these things for yourself and go down this road, and you can help navigate and educate them. But those questions are already being asked by young people.
And
it's not just coaches.
Go ahead.
No, it's not just coaches. Nobody from the university.
Right.
Nobody involved with the university is allowed to touch NIL. And it's it's the Wild West right now. I know that Willie Saylor's gone on record and said a lot of things about it, and some other people in the wrestling community have very strong feelings on the subject. But the reality is the schools aren't supposed to have any sort of involvement in that stuff. And but it's the Wild West, and we're just not sure what's going on.
Yeah. You've also got the reality of the fact that the largest NIL deal signed to date is a college wrestler. Not
Sure
everybody's
is.
Gable Steveson, but it's the sport. Yeah. So it makes sense that these kids are going to be like, hey, if he can get that, what is there out there for me? I totally get it. You can't blame them at all. It's going to be interesting.
And I think where I land, and Tanner and I know have talked about this often, is it's going to take a few years just to see how it shakes out. Because as you just said, Corey, you had Gable secure what he did, and that's great. I mean, I'm super happy. But now, was that the one thing over the last 5 years where that's going to be the case? Was he the aberration, I guess, of that, or is this going to be the norm? I don't know. And time will tell us what's possible for these young men, and then we'll all have a better handle on it about what's really out there and what people can expect. Because right now, man, I don't know if you know what to expect. I mean, he won the Olympics, in collegiate, when the same year he was in college, in an Olympic year, like it all lined up very well for him. Is that going to be the norm? Is that going to be, hey, this isn't really what it is, 5 years down the road? I think it's going to be fascinating to sit and watch and see where this thing really goes as far as wrestling is concerned.
Definitely. And I could see it, wrestling's also a sport that doesn't have an established professional league like pro football, pro baseball, pro basketball, pro soccer, pro hockey. Pro wrestling is completely different. So therefore it's kind of like it's a different sandbox. And that gives them a little more flexibility. So, it might be something, you're right, Tony, it might be a one-off. He's a generational talent and that's it, but it might not be. And time will tell.
Yep. Yeah. That's what fascinates me. I just want to sit and see where this goes the next few years, what really is possible for these people. Then you'll have a great idea of advising people and what's really there for them and what they can expect, right, to make for this or that. Like, those things are all going to be possible. Man, right now he caught his deal, which people say is $1 million. I'm sure it's well over that, in terms of what he's doing total. So, but what is everybody else doing as well, right? What is the norm for these young people? What is their value? Knowing that will be the key. And right now it's just too early to know what the value really is, in my opinion.
Yes. We digress. We do that often. That's okay.
Sure, that's what podcasts are for.
That's what it's
Somehow
for.
we got name, image, likeness really rolled into recruiting. I think it's a part of it now. To say it's
for sure.
Is you got your head in the sand.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again to Brody. Congrats. We're really excited to have you here, buddy. Big
Yep.
day for you and your family. And so welcome to the Boilermakers. This last weekend, we did a thing. We officially started the 2021-22 season. A couple of dual wins out on the East Coast. Boilermakers went out, opened at Drexel, came away with a 28-19 win over the Dragons, and then followed up with a 33-3 win at Rider. Scooted up the road about 45 minutes to Lawrenceville, New Jersey, and got a win up there. So, Coach, some overall takeaways from the weekend and our first bite at competition for the season.
Yeah, for those that didn't follow the duel against Drexel, that was a wild duel. That was it was interesting. We got out to an early lead. I don't remember what it exactly was. Might have been 14-0.
14-0.
Very strong start. And then, man, it got real tight real quick with just situations, right? We unfortunately had an injury default. We had a fall, right? We got thrown and pinned. And so in 2 weights, we gave up 12 points, really kind of let them back in before shutting the door by winning the final 3 matches as well. So that one was a bit of a roller coaster ride, especially, as I said, giving up, 12 points in 2 weights there through one, unfortunately, like I said, injury default, and the other one getting thrown. But I told the guys, that's why you come to college. Like, that's fun. That was fun. That got your heart rate going. We were competing. Yeah, we made mistakes, right? It's the first weekend of the year. You're gonna make some mistakes. You're not striving for perfection here. The first weekend, it's the process to get to March. And so overall, a solid start. And I was happy with the effort. The kids competed. So even when we made some mistakes, maybe in tactical areas, I didn't feel like it wasn't because we weren't engaged in competing and working out there, for their teammates and themselves. So I was happy with the effort overall. We had some guys, I will say, trying some things too. I've got some older guys who have been really working some skill sets, and they were out trying some things that isn't their normal bread and butter, right? Working on some new ways to score and some different positions. And so that's going to be a work in progress too. But overall, a solid start to this team. And I don't know if you want me to talk Rider as much too, but I guess the thing there is what I was happy about is, we were behind in a couple of matches and really ran opponents down. Like, Matt Ramos was in a position where, man, he had to score twice there in the 3rd period, and he was coming on strong. He wasn't going to be denied. Got a couple takedowns, got it to OT, and then actually got the fall in OT. So when you're closing matches in that way, that excites you. You got guys who are competing hard and are gritty and tough. And that's kind of the identity of our team, especially to go along with talent like Ramos has. And then I thought Parker Filius, ran a guy down again. And people who aren't familiar, you look, that Quinn Kinner was an Ohio State kid, highly respected kid coming out of high school, changed locations with Ohio State, but he's a talented kid. And again, for Parker to come in and to really be that gritty, tough late in a match to get it done, says a lot against a talent like Kinner. So some good things to build on overall. Certainly not perfect, but a very solid foundation and tone we've set ourselves in how we're going to compete this year.
Before jumping into some of the individual performances, wanted to talk about the decision to pack the team up and go to a couple of road duels, as opposed to, we usually go take the team to, an open tournament, start the season, get that 2-hour weigh-in, get to, get a lot of guys, a lot of matches, shake the rust off, so on and so forth. We audibled and chose to take the guys on the road into what turned out to be some hostile environments. Both, hats off to Drexel and Rider. They packed their gyms. It was loud. It was rowdy. It was a lot of fun. Both places. It was great to have fans back in the stands, and even if they were cheering against us, it was a good time.
Yeah, I think, wrestling in those environments, especially early, serve you well late. there's some good tests. Drexel's got a nice little team there. Coach Azevedo, job. Those guys were ready, especially they were ready to go. You know what I mean? That, you could tell they were up even in warmups. They were getting ready to throw everything they had at us. And so they've got a nice little team. I think those experiences serve you well. You've got to have some tough conditions, wrestling 2 matches in the day and traveling 1 hour weigh-in right out of the gate. Those are all, again, experiences that will pay you back at the end of the year. And that I hope, our kids understand that, and they will draw on that as they move through the rest of their season, especially as we get into the Big Ten.
2 guys that particularly I would like to highlight and talk a little about. Let's start with Matt Ramos. I don't know how many people realize this or thought about it. We talked about it. Saturday were his first 2 folk style matches since 2019. The kid hadn't wrestled a folk style match since his senior year of high school at Lockport. Hurt his first year, took the Olympic year his second year, did a lot of freestyle there, and was as entertaining as anybody out there on the mat. The kid's a highlight reel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dynamic talent, right? To be sure. The exciting thing for him is he wrestles from a lot of different positions. Okay. He's capable of, defensively, upper body. He can attack low, right? Like he can wrestle from a lot of positions. And I'm excited about how he's picking up some of the top stuff, working with Coach Shop. He's already looking like he's getting proficient there from top. And we're just going to keep hammering the mat away with him. He's come a long ways already. And as I said, he's comfortable from a lot of places. So just getting his feel from top and bottom between now and March will be important for him.
Came out with the tech fall, went 18-3 in his opener at Drexel. Came back, like you alluded to, dug out of an early hole against a ranked kid and a returning national qualifier and Richie Kohler out at Rider. And not only got the win in overtime, but got the fall in overtime. And I thought that was big for the team and exciting for the team. And I think that really got kind of the engines going for the squad.
Yeah. I think I've probably said this before, like he's such a great kid because he's just happy. Like his energy is so good. And even on meet day, those are great things. That he has the right attitude about competing. He's out there, he's loose, he's wrestling hard. But he's going to throw what he's got at you. And that makes him dangerous. And so I really appreciate that about Matt and look forward to it because I think that's great for the team as well. He's a young guy, but he's competed on the world stage. He's got some big wins. And so he goes out, he's going to do his thing, and he looks at it, with the right kind of excitement and energy. And that's not the case for everybody, right? There's a lot of guys out there who compete and they get a little tight, they don't look at this with the same positive thing. Like I've got a lot of really positive things that can happen now, which is how Matt's looking at it. He's looking at it like, hey, I'm going to go out and throw all this stuff at him. I got a lot of good things that are going to happen for me when I'm out there. And again, that's how I would want all of our guys to be, take that same, hey, we train hard. We're ready. Let's throw everything we got at them. And I think that's a great presence to have on your team.
Another guy to highlight, we'll stick with the newcomer vibe. Michael Woulfe made a nice splash.
Did he ever?
In his collegiate run, actually his Boilermaker debut. This is, we talk about Ramos's layoff. Woulfe hadn't competed since 2016. His final year at the Naval Academy.
The guy's 27 years old.
Yeah, 27 years old. Goes out, bumps up a weight, goes and wrestles heavyweight and opens up with a pair of falls. In very what's the word I'm looking for? Explosive. No, that's not the right word.
He's not explosive. Don't
he's
give
not.
him explosive.
No, but he's exciting.
Don't pump him up.
He is. I'll give him exciting. He's dangerous.
Flamboyant.
No, he's you talk about another guy too, like I gravitate to him just not only because of the wrestling. The wrestling's one thing, right? And it's clearly tremendous. 2 falls on the weekend, giving up size and weight to these guys. But again, man, a guy who has just the right attitude. Like, you know, when we talk about Ramos, and we got a lot of guys like this, by the way. I know I'm highlighting 2 newcomers. We got a lot of guys like this. So, but man, when he goes out and competes, you know, he's great on meet day, cool as a cucumber, knows who he is. He's going to do his thing, you know, just, you know, he's just there. Hey, he's wearing his flip-flops, right? Like my man is standing there in his shorts and flip-flops going to the meet, smile on his face, and you know what you're going to get out of him. So I really enjoy that about him and his maturity that he brings as well. So I appreciate as much the attitude and the energy that they bring as what they are on the mat. And boy, he is dangerous. I mean, he's got a different style. You know, he's wrestled up at heavyweight for us, and these big guys want to go upper body with him. And I'm telling you, that's not a good thing. He knows what he's doing there. And he's dangerous. And then if you let him get on top of anybody, you know, he's got a funky ride that's just tough to deal with too. The people don't see very often. So again, you know, dangerous guy, not the way I would ever wrestle. I even told him, man, I was laughing. I'm like, you know, for me, it's a little risky. You're comfortable with it. And he's just like, Coach, man, he's like, I'm winning that position more times than not. I'm going to win. And he does, you know, as I watch him wrestle and I see him go, he wins it. So he ain't lying. He knows who he is and he's comfortable with it. So man, roll with it. You know,
chill out. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, dude, he's out there. At one point, I was almost getting ready to yell no out of my mouth. Like no was on the verge of my lips. And then he took the kid through and he's on top. You know what I mean? It was going to be like a 50-50 at best situation. And I'm like, and then he's on top. You know what I mean? So I think I'm just going to have to, you know, sit in my chair and hang and wait and see how some of this stuff, you know, pans out with Michael. But again, I really appreciate who he is as a man, you know what I mean? And kind of that attitude and presence he has, man. I think a lot of our young guys should be paying attention to a guy like that. You know, he's got his stuff together, and I don't care what your skill set is. Everybody can draw on, you know, his appreciation, you know, for what he's doing. I'll tell you a story. He mentioned this to me, and I thought this was great and why it makes him very dangerous. We were down in the lobby one morning on the trip, and, you know, he'd won at Drexel, and we're getting ready to go over to Rider, I think it was. And I said, you know, hey, you know, how do you feel competing now again, right? You had your first official match, you're back, you're doing great. You know, how's that feel? And he said, you know, it's interesting to me, Coach, I don't have like the love-hate relationship with the sport right now that I may have had at times, you know what I mean? You know, he's like, it's just all good. I'm back here after, you know, the guy's a Navy SEAL, so I can only imagine some of the things he's been through and had to do, right? So his appreciation for that, the moment and what he's doing is really high, and it makes it very positive. And I don't mean like love, hate, like it's wrestling was a totally negative for him. That's not how I meant it. But we all know how hard this sport is, and the moments there's highs and lows. And I think he's in such a good place with it because he now has this opportunity again, right, to chase a dream that hadn't been there for several years. So, man, I think that perspective again is fantastic for young people.
You know, you brought up, you said the word comfort, and that kind of like triggered for me. It's very interesting that both Ramos and Woulfe they seem to be very comfortable being uncomfortable. They get into positions that, like you said, you look at and you're like, I wouldn't do that. Nope, that's not for me. But then they come out on top. They find a way. And I've even, you know, I heard Ramos talking to you in your office the other day about like, yeah, I'm really comfortable there. I know it doesn't seem right, but I'm really comfortable there. And I guess this leads me to the next thing, like, how difficult is it to coach a guy who maybe does things that are not traditional, or that, you know, go against kind of some of the things you were taught, or the way you wrestled, or, you know, the way you would typically instruct your team to wrestle?
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And that's, it's hard. It's hard for me. You know what I mean? Because yeah, there's certain things that I see as, what quality wrestling is and what it looks like. But I guess, now, over the years, right, being around so many people who bring different skill sets and just learning to appreciate that and then work with them to add to that, right? You never want to try to change a guy. You don't want to take him something he is at the core of his being and you could totally change him, but you do want to add to it. Like you want to add to that in a positive way. And so finding that way is necessary. And I'll go back. We've got a guy like Shop with his series. He's got some different stuff. It's great stuff. It wasn't around when I was around, but I wish it was, right? Like that stuff's good stuff. So I've been super happy that, Shop's been on our staff and I've been able to pick up a lot of that top stuff and how he goes about his business. Having Daniel Lewis, a lot of his stuff, could be a little unorthodox. And I'm sure I'll take some more stuff from both, a guy like, Woulfe and Ramos. Like you should be learning from your athletes, right? That should never stop. That should always continue to happen. So I guess now I've probably learned to appreciate that more than before, and then still try to add to it. Because as a coach, I still have minimums, right? Like there's still minimums in my mind from position and skill sets that you have to have mastered in this sport. So I want to make sure that we continue to add those things to what a young man does. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to change who you are, but I want to add to what else you may be missing, and that will allow you to have even better success.
Not to be forgotten, a few other guys to mention who went 2-0 on the weekend. Devin Schroeder came out, won a couple matches. Parker Phileas came out, won a couple matches. Trey Crucy got his first career varsity dual win. That was nice out at Rider. He stepped in for Alec White after he got hurt and stepped up. Max Lyon, 2-0, a couple of gutsy wins. And Thomas Pinola came out and Thomas looked great got an injury default in the first match and then took out a ranked guy in Matt Carenti in the nightcap at Rider. So
and the interesting thing, side note, most people probably remember 2 years ago, Tom had an instrumental win over Carenti, who was at the time at Rutgers.
Yep.
They have some history, right? Like they were both up at heavyweight that year. And Tom had to win a slugfest of a match that night to put us in position to win the duel, later on. And he did. And this time they were both down at 97 and he dominated the match. You know what I mean? Like he controlled start to finish and, in my opinion, dominated the match all the way through. So good to see that, with some guys who had some history. And it was a nail biter match the first time they wrestled a couple years ago when Carenti was at Rutgers.
Yeah, it was heated at Rutgers. That was a tight one. And it was funny because you saw, I don't know if you noticed this, Tony, but when they did the introductions and the guys go out and shake hands, like there was definitely a familiarity there. They look, Carenti was there, shook his hand and, almost said, nice to see you type of deal. But no, Tom, it was definitely very different from the first meeting. And, his first match of the day against Sean O'Malley from Drexel, that match got a little chippy early, and that didn't seem to work out for Tom's opponent. He got the penalty point for swinging some ties in a little firm, and Tom said, okay, it's gonna be that. If it's gonna be that kind of party, well, we can do that too. And
Tom's a guy who really embraces that kind of a match, So I thought that was interesting. That's an interesting choice of an opponent to take that approach, I guess.
I find it so hard to believe that a Tom Pinola match got a little chippy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, right. But no, we were watching it and we're like, is this guy really going to do that? Like, oh, okay, he is. And then the injury default came like a minute later. So, and it wasn't like Tom did anything dirty. Tom was just wrestling hard.
Yep.
It happens.
That's all right.
Yep. So, overall, a good trip. It was not without its lack of adversity. We had a lot of things go sideways, from the rental car company to an accident on the freeway on the way to on the way to Rider. That was right in front of me. I saw a taxi get its whole back half caved in.
Yikes.
I heard you guys had glass flying at you.
Oh, everywhere. Yeah. No, the back windows exploded. I was 2 cars behind it and Soufflon was behind me. So it was intense, but yeah, we managed to not get tied up in that. And
well, and we were the last ones, right? We were bringing up the rear. So it was good. You guys had called and said, hey, get over in the far right lane. We skirted it fairly well, but man, we rolled in. It's an 8 o'clock duel. And because of the accident and just other things getting up there, we got up there at like 7:05. So
Yep.
it's rolling in less than an hour before the duel. So when people talk, when this is what happens on the road, the rental car stuff was a nightmare getting in and getting stuff figured out. You had that huge pile up on the interstate going up to Jersey that night that delayed us. These are the things on the road. And like I said, our guys handled it well.
Mhm.
They showed up, they got warmed up again hard and let it roll and had a good duel, a solid duel against Rider, winning, what was it, 33-3, I think. So, and had to wrestle out a couple of tough, gritty wins. So these are things that should pay you back down the road. You can win, you can wrestle. You just gotta, keep your frame of mind and be ready to go. And they were.
for sure. Back on the road this weekend, heading over to Cleveland State for a dual Sunday with the Vikings. But I'm looking forward to not doing the whole planes, trains, and automobiles thing. Give me that nice 5-hour bus ride where I can sit in my seat and just wait for us to get there. I'm looking forward to that trip.
Yeah, no doubt. Looking forward to a good match. Sunday afternoon, and then back at home. I just throw it out, everybody. We need everybody in Holloway Gym on the 21st. A lot of good wrestling, and so we definitely want to have a great home crowd for those 3 duels.
Absolutely.
Can't wait.
I think that's all we got, Corey.
Yeah, I think we're good. Tony, good luck this weekend. Thanks as always. Tana, good to see you. I can't wait to hear the off-air versions of the stories that you just alluded to on that travel party.
They're always a little more colorful that way, aren't they?
A little bit. We'll do that later. Until next week, Boiler up.